All right, yesterday, as he was providing an update on Russia and Ukraine, President Biden essentially told Americans to brace for more pain at the gas pump and elsewhere if Moscow invades, because the Russian-built Nord Stream 2 natural gas pipeline to Germany would be suspended as a consequence.
I'll not pretend this will be painless. There could be impact on our energy prices. So we are taking active steps to alleviate the pressure on our own energy markets and offset raising prices. We're coordinating with major energy consumers and producers. We're prepared to deploy all the tools and authority at our disposal to provide relief at the gas pump.
But many, including yours truly, would argue that these secondary effects of the Russia-Ukraine conflict is self-inflicted. It's a self-inflicted crisis. It is policy decisions of this administration that has made our energy supply vulnerable. And I think my next guest would agree. Joining me now is Montana Senator Steve Daines, a member of the Senate Energy Committee, as well as the Banking and Finance Committees in the Senate. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Good to join you, Tony.
All right. Is this self-inflicted in terms of the volatility of our energy supply?
Tony, if you take Economics 101, they teach you about supply and demand. What this president is doing and has done to America is he is restricting the supply of made in America energy. Remember, on day one, hours after he was sworn in, he killed the Keystone XL pipeline through executive order. Then he moved forward and he declared a halt to all oil and gas leases on our public lands across America. He stopped them. Then he's moving forward, these bureaucrats he's placed in his administration that want to see the United States stop using oil, natural gas, and coal. And as you mentioned, he greenlights the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and gives Putin a direct connection between Russia and Germany and makes Europe now more dependent on the Russians for their energy needs. Tony, he's taken us right back to where we were back in the dark days of the 70s, where we saw escalating oil prices, creating inflationary effects. And don't ever forget, in 1981, a 30-year fixed mortgage was 18.6%. This president, through his policies, is taking us down that very dangerous path.
And we're looking now at the average price at the pump for regular gasoline across the nation. It's nearly, the average nationally is around $3.50 per gallon. Now, two of your Democratic colleagues are proposing to temporarily eliminate the federal gas tax. I mean, that's like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
Well, it shows you, Tony, how desperate the Democrats are at the moment. They are hearing from their constituents loud and clear that inflation is their biggest challenge. We've seen the highest levels of inflation in 40 years, that 7.5% number that we saw last week. We are into territory again that reminds me what it was like back in the 70s and 80s. And what's their solution? The gas tax? Are you kidding me? There's a clear solution. Why does he just tell the American people, go make more energy? He needs to stop these policies, get the Keystone Pipeline going again, start drilling more in America. Remember the drill, baby, drill conversations we had years ago? That's what we need, because it's so important, not just for our economy, but also for the geopolitics, because when we are retreating from made in America energy, that means more made in Russia energy, more made in Iran energy. That's a very dangerous place for the world.
It is. And for the first time in decades during the Trump administration, we were energy independent. In fact, we were actually exporting oil. We had come to a point where we were not dependent on other countries, which is a national security issue. Now, this past Sunday, speaking of the Keystone Pipeline, you sent a letter to the Biden administration demanding answers about the outstanding report. They were supposed to submit a report that talked about the job losses as a result of canceling the Keystone Pipeline. How important is it that we get the full impact of the president's actions and the American people have the opportunity to see that?
Well, the American people need to see clearly the consequences of the president's actions, how reckless the president was with one stroke of a pen to kill a critical piece of infrastructure, a pipeline. And what's crazy about this, Tony, The modern pipelines are the safest way to move a liquid. They also actually emit less carbon to move it via pipeline than via a rail car or a truck. And so it's the environmentally sound way to do it. It's a safe way to do it. It also would have created somewhere between 10 and 15,000 jobs, tens of millions of dollars of tax revenues that go to some of these really impoverished counties that I have in Montana to help fund law enforcement and teachers and taking care of basic road repair in their communities. This is what happened. I wish Joe Biden would have come out like I did back in February and visit face to face with these families who literally received a pink slip right after the holidays because of President Biden's actions when he killed the Keystone XL pipeline.
So, Senator Daines, could that pipeline be restarted?
It's going to be more difficult. There's a chance, but time kills deals. And the longer this goes on, the harder it is to remobilize what needs to be done here to get that pipeline put in the ground. Literally, they were starting to dig the trench. Literally, you could see the pipe pre-staged in areas very close to where that pipeline was going to run. I saw it right there in Montana because the first place the Keystone Pipeline comes into our country is Montana. Saw it firsthand. Every day that goes by, it's going to be harder to resurrect that pipeline, and the consequences of that are going to be felt for the next generation.
Let me talk more broadly about the economy. During the White House press briefing yesterday, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked by a reporter about why President Biden continues to talk about the Build Back Better plan. And here's her response.
The president continues to bring it up because as we talk about the impact of inflation, which most people experience in their daily lives as rising costs, one of the ways that we can address that is by passing legislation that will help lower costs for Americans, whether it's child care or health care or the cost of prescription drugs. And we can do that and fully pay for it by making the tax system more fair.
All right. I'm just going to let you take that one on.
I know. Tony, it's hard to keep a straight face. Listen, what she just said we call it the Build Back Broke program they're trying to push. Here we are in the midst of record levels of inflation in 40 years. And what she just proposed is that we pass one of the biggest spending bills in our nation's history. It would be a $5 trillion bill. That's what she just basically proposed, with $3 trillion of additional debt, with higher taxes. So you put that massive spending by the government on top of already inflation fire that's burning. That truly is throwing kerosene on a flame and on the inflation fire at the moment. And it's hard to keep a straight face. They're tone deaf at the moment when they say the solution to the problem here is basically to make the problem worse.
I mean, wouldn't it be better to allow the private sector to invest into expanding, creating more jobs, helping fight inflation by being able to pay their employees more? If they kept the money, what they're proposing is taxes on primarily those who generate jobs. Small businesses would be hit by their proposed taxes. I mean, this is, as you said, this is more of the agony that they've put on the economy and the American people.
Tony, case in point, we talked about the Keystone Pipeline. That is a private sector-led infrastructure project that creates jobs, creates high-paying jobs. It creates tax revenues, not spending taxpayer dollars. And that's what we should be focused on. And that's just a fundamental divide we have between the philosophies of where we stand on the right and where the Democrats have gone. The Democrats of today are so far to the left. Ideologically, they're leaving the American people behind. And that's why you're going to see this massive red wave hit the shores in the November 2022 election.
I think you're right, Senator. One final question for you, just as we try to inform, educate people that watch and listen to the program. Beyond the ideology of the two parties, let's talk pure economics. A dollar that the government takes and puts into jobs or a program versus a dollar that the private sector puts in. The government dollar does not have the multiplying effect that private sector dollar has, does it?
It doesn't. And the bottom line is, you think about the efficiency of these investments. When you allow the American people, the private sector, to make their choice of where the dollars are invested. First of all, they are investing it based on what the free market is saying, the best place to invest, highest return on that investment. The government takes those dollars through taxes, brings them back to Washington, D.C. And first of all, it takes about a 30% haircut right off the top to feed the beast here in Washington. So you already start with maybe only 70 cents on the dollar, what's really left to even redeploy. And then the government's deciding where to redeploy that, not the private sector and free markets. That's the fundamental contrast here between a private sector-led economy and freedom and socialism, and frankly, how China runs their economy. That's what's at stake. This is a fundamental battle between freedom and socialism.
It absolutely is. Senator Steve Daines, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Tony.